Welcome back to the Not Wonder Woman podcast. You're listening to episode number 9, how to follow up after a job interview and deal with the waiting game of a job search, all part of our Get a Dream Job series.
Welcome to the Not Wonder Woman podcast. No capes, no superpowers, just hustle.
Not Wonder Woman removes the myth of the ladies who, quote, have it all and gives practical insight to help you, the working woman, conquer the world like the boss babes we know you are. Welcome back to the Not Wonder Woman podcast. It's me, Mel, and I'm joined here with Kieran. Kieran, how are you doing?
I'm good. How are you?
All is well here in Houston, Texas, although it is 100 degrees in the shade.
100 degrees in the shade. Well, we've had a bit of sun and now it's raining again. I think people are quite happy with that nobody's expecting consistency. We just had some sunshine, so we're good. Okay. That will have to do.
Nice. Well, we are in the middle of our Dream Job series, and we last week talked about how to interview. This week, we are talking about the post-interview, how to get the most out of it, and then how to deal with the waiting game that is a job search. So, Kieran, what is your top tip after an interview?
I think it's the follow-up, isn't it? It's so however you choose to contact the company that you interviewed with, and my contact method of choice is email, just to say thank you. I know you usually end an interview by saying thank you for your time, etc., but I think it's a really good opportunity to sort of set yourself apart because not everybody does it. Sending an email to say thanks and remind them of who you are, why you want to work there, that kind of thing. What do you think?
So during an interview, I mentioned that I always bring a notepad in with me, and that really is where I'm taking notes so that I can reference those after the interview to use those in my follow-up. So that's a helpful key to me, and I have a pretty bad memory, so I definitely need that notepad when I have a follow-up, whether that's an email, a phone call, or a handwritten letter.
I don't think it's an age thing. My memory's terrible. And actually, I know lots of people with terrible memories, and they're young. Like 10 years younger than I am. So it's just, I don't know, we've got lots of information to process.
We certainly do have a lot to remember, especially after an interview. So I really like to use that notepad while I'm in the interview or immediately after. I like to use it just to jot down a few notes before I start the next interview.
I do that. Yeah. I take notes afterwards and I use notes in my phone. I try to keep the work notes separate. So I like to keep notes because they're searchable on my phone and my MacBook.
The other thing I always try to do is make sure that I grab business cards while I'm in an interview. I just don't want to get the wrong email address or phone number if I am going to do a follow-up. And so that is my first thing to remember also when I'm leaving an interview. But then if I didn't get a card for some reason, just asking the secretary and getting some help from her or the receptionist about the right contact information for people.
Things. And if you forget to do that, LinkedIn is kind of my backup choice. But
yeah,
I think it's super important to know how to spell names, things like that, especially if you're writing an email or writing a handwritten note to them. So that's kind of my other top things I think about. What about a call? What do you think about that?
See, it depends. I mean, if you had a panel, which I think is quite common nowadays, I'm sure you interviewed with a panel of people.
Have.
What would you do? Would you call each person? What do you do?
I typically reserve a call, or I would suggest to people to reserve a call if part of the job is communication. Mm-hmm. And, that just show, or it's maybe something like sales where you need to show how aggressive you are.
Yeah.
Maybe not aggressive.
Not aggressive, but like you're outgoing, you're willing to put yourself out there, that kind of thing. Yeah.
That's right. That's right. So I do think a call can help with that. The other thing, whether it's a call or in your notes that you're a thank you note or otherwise, I think you can expound upon your skill set, maybe easier in a phone call, or if there was something that was a little awkward about the interview, But
you can clear
you
it
can
up.
help clear that up better on a phone call to me than in something
Then an
handwritten.
email.
Right. So I do think a call could be useful, especially if even if it was awkward, if you're interested in the job still.
Yeah. So would you said a handwritten note, would you actually write like a thank you note by hand?
I would.
Would you?
I would do a handwritten note. And most of the time I do that. I do that basically almost for anything. But I think maybe that's something old South. I don't know. My mother always made me write thank you notes for everything that happened in my life.
No,
every present I ever got.
I think I think thank you notes here are really common, like for gifts, but I don't know. I was just thinking like, when would it be appropriate to receive or send a thank you? I don't know if it's the done thing here. I don't know. Maybe somebody can tell me.
The thing I think about on that is that emails and phone calls now, and less phone calls, but emails in particular, can get lost in the shuffle. And so if you really want to stand out, I think that's another opportunity to put yourself out in front of them. Now, snail mail is slower, but
it does get you noticed, doesn't it?
It does, because you don't
typically
get mail. So
yeah,
I do think, and it's another way to like highlight your name on it, your contact information again, and you can make it look professional. I have my own cards with my name on them and that kind of thing, so that people remember me and think about it. So to me, it can give you a leg up, and I don't think it's inappropriate to do a call and to write a note. And the things when I'm writing something, a handwritten note, I will try to think of something, as we mentioned, that you might have talked about in your interview, but typically I'll try to weave in something about the business or finding an article that may be related to it in a newspaper, something that will show that I was attentive and that I care about the business, and something that's a follow-up in a way that isn't the same as just another email that you get. So I think you can really make yourself stand out if you do something like that.
I think you can definitely make yourself stand out. I think that people should be mindful, especially, and I'm talking from, maybe this is a cultural thing, and maybe I have a lack of experience and would like to be schooled on this, is that are people in the UK sending handwritten thank you notes after interviews? I need to know, because I don't want to suggest to people that you go and do that and actually you may be gonna have yourself stand out for the wrong reason. I don't know. I do not remember anybody saying that they received a handwritten thank you note for an interview, but definitely an email and definitely a phone call.
Yep.
Yeah.
I think those are a must have. And I think the timing is also really important. It should be, I think, if you're doing those things within 24 hours.
It has to be really, doesn't it? Otherwise, especially if you're using snail mail, how long does it take for a letter to get to, like, same state where you are? Like,
yeah, it typically takes 2 to 3 days. But what I would often do if I'm in the city interviewing in that same city is I will typically drop it off the next day, or have a courier drop it off, so that it is in the mail and there. So that's a little easier if you're in the city you're interviewing, to have it delivered in a timely fashion. What about, you've had the interview, you're in the waiting period afterwards. We've said, how you need to follow up and what you need to think about. How do you reflect on your interviews afterwards? And to me, it's a learning opportunity every time.
Yeah.
But what are some tips that you have for post-interview, reflecting on yourself and making that the most useful learning experience you can have for your future interviews?
I probably, and I mentioned this in the last episode where I said that there are a number of recruiters that I've personally used, and they're a service that people would use quite regularly, I think, here. So typically after an interview, you're going to get a call from your recruiter who's going to say, how did it go? Whether they've spoken to their client, i.e. the company you just interviewed with, or not, they're going to call you and say, how did it go? What did they ask you? And as much as they're asking just out of interest to see, what your interviews were like, what your responses were like, and so that they can be a good judge and sort of, think, actually, did it go well, or are you out of the running? They're also asking the questions so that they can maybe go back to the next person and say, these are the questions that they asked as well. But I am usually, sometimes I'm sitting there thinking, oh, I should have said that. I should have said that. I should have said that. And sometimes it can be a bit, you can sort of get down on yourself sometimes when you think, oh, I could have answered that so much better. But actually, you gave the best answer that you could in that instance. So I'm just sort of trying to give myself a pat on the back, because what I didn't get right in this interview, I'm going to take into the next one. So I'm usually just reflecting. I'm also making my mind up about the company, because I'm interviewing them as much as they're interviewing me. I'm going to be spending a lot of time here if I get the job. So maybe either discussing that with my husband, or, with friends, or like current colleagues about what the company's like and what I thought. So yeah, just a general review, I'd say, of how the whole thing went. Is that something you do as well?
For sure. And you raised just a great point. If there's things where you felt like you didn't maybe answer the question right, or could expound upon that more, or thought later about an experience that really that can stand out, could be an example of how you could show a skill they're looking for. I think that follow-up letter or call is a great place to add that in.
Yeah.
Just if you just
it
so
really
all is
is
not
yeah.
lost. And I do think that's why reflecting on it is so important, and so that you can clear up any mistakes that are there, or expound upon skill sets that you really don't think you had highlighted very well in the interview. I love the idea of the recruiter. The other thing I like to ask a recruiter is how the company viewed me. So I do try to find from them what feedback they had, and what skills did I not highlight well to them, or what things really, really stood out to them as a positive, because those are the things I want to take with me, whether I get that job or not, to the next interview.
Yeah.
Or things to change. And the other thing is if I got asked a really hard question, or a question that really stumped me, I try to be prepared for the next.
How would you explain a contract to an alien? That kind of question.
That kind of question. So if there was a standout question, I really do try to think about next time, because sometimes people read the same blogs or think about the same things about how to ask interview questions, and so very well might come out
the top three. Is that what they say? You're usually going for one of the top 3 links. So it's highly likely that people have read the same stuff.
That's typically kind of what I do to debrief. And this is the next thing that I view as happening after an interview, is this waiting game.
Oh yeah.
It's so terrible.
It is, isn't it?
How do you deal with that? Because that is.
I usually get busy looking for another job that I might be interviewing for. Just let me see what else is out there, just in case. Or I don't know. I think social media is such a bigger thing than when I was even last looking, but I would certainly use that time to see what that company is putting out on social media in the last however long, because you probably researched them when you first saw the ad, but maybe go on Twitter, see what they're responding, see what they're saying, just to see. Again, I'm weighing up, do I want to work for this company? What are they putting out there? What are people saying about them? Because if I'm going to get a yes or a callback for a second interview, I want to be certain that this is a place I want to work. And also it can give you something else to say in the second interview. I tend to try and keep myself busy, whether that's looking at other jobs, or looking at their social media, or pretending I don't care when really I do really care.
Of course. Now, are you stalking them the same? We talked about stalking our interviewers before the interview.
Yes.
Post-interview. What do you think about that? Are we looking at them on LinkedIn? Are we trying to be incognito about that?
I'm still going to be incognito on LinkedIn. No, I'm going to be incognito. Just it freaks me out sometimes. LinkedIn. It's the only social media network that identifies people that have looked at your profile if you've got an open profile. So I think you do need to be careful. You don't just go around clicking on anybody. Unless I don't know, that's your thing, or you're in sales, or you're in PR. I think it's useful to go to the company page on LinkedIn and see what they're putting out, because that's not a profile that they can see who's looked. They'll say, you come up in searches, but I think going to the company, having a look at what news they've put out, what people are saying about them. Is that what happens on a LinkedIn company profile? I think a company profile is actually really interesting to see how often they're updating it, what kind of things they're talking about, if they're sharing other companies' information. So yeah, I think after the interview, social media is always a good one.
And I don't know if you have this the way we do in the United States, but if you're a publicly traded company, you have to have certain disclosures all the time. So I'm always looking at, for example, the investor relations page or something equivalent to that for any company that I would be interviewing with. That would be something that I would.
Oh, that's a really good idea. Yeah. If the company is publicly traded,
right. And so that just is another one that doesn't make you look like a stalker, but
gives you
something to do.
Yeah, and the investor information would give you sort of inside information. Yeah, typically, inside information much as it has to be published.
That's right. It could be something also you use if you go quickly back to that, to use it in your follow-up emails or notes. We talked about this in the interview, and I saw you guys disclose this. Looking forward to hearing, the great things that come about for this project, because they've disclosed it. Now you read about it. You've gotten a little more context. I think really those kind of things just make you stand out, and also are exactly what you're doing, which is you're evaluating the company. And so making sure that that's where you want to be and that they have good prospects as a company going forward. But the waiting game is hard. How do you follow up if you're like freaking out about it, which we all are, right? If it's been a week.
Yeah, it's been a week.
What do you do?
I'm following up. I'm calling someone after a week. I'm calling somebody. I'm calling a recruiter, or I'm calling them. And I would say, and I've been in this situation where you want to hear back from them. You want to know what they're doing, even if it's we're still interviewing people. And I remember somebody that I knew had this amazing interview, this job opportunity with an amazing, well-known magazine and online brand. And the interview process just got, it was such a lengthy process, and she kept on being invited back, and then they'd go quiet, and then she was invited back again, and they'd go quiet. And it was incredibly frustrating, even just hearing it. And then eventually they pulled the role. The role was they were no longer recruiting. So after all of that, the agonizing wait, and she was getting other job offers, and then you're sort of like, oh, what do I do? I really want to hear from that one. Have you been in that situation before, or anybody in that situation where they're waiting for that one job and getting interviews and second interviews or even offers elsewhere?
The last time I was moving, that kind of happened to me. I was going for one job totally out of my comfort zone, but I thought it would be a neat position. It was actually a sales position. And then the other job that I was having was in my traditional role of being an in-house lawyer. I was so conflicted because I was getting exactly that. I was still getting interviews by one, but then finally got an offer from the other. But each were kind of moving back and forth. It was really interesting. Let me just say that, because that is when you really know you're interviewing the other company too. And those things are telltale signs of sometimes of the way a company runs.
Exactly.
So if you are not good with a bureaucracy, that may be a high sign that you need to run from that company, because that is not for you. Those kind of slow things like that. I work for a publicly traded company, but it's pretty lean in the way it's staffed. And that means also that we work a lot of jobs, so a lot of people. So they're pretty quick to make a decision and move forward, because it doesn't have to go through a whole lot of layers of bureaucracy. But that really does tell you a lot, I think, if you're in that situation of just waiting and not knowing what to do next, and waiting is just like the worst. Who of us is patient? None of us.
Nobody. So, I mean,
that game of waiting it out is a hard one, but it also just tells you a lot about the company. And so to me, I take it as information gathering. Also, the time period. Next week, we're going to talk about kind of interview number 2 and some of the follow-ups that may happen. But what if, 2 days after the interview and you get the no that you're not a candidate that they want to go forward with, what is that process like? I'm sure it probably never happened to you actually, because you're amazing. So
no, it's happened. Actually, I have had interviews that I haven't got the job, and I think, on the odd occasion, I think it maybe happened once or twice, but it went through a recruiter again, which sort of softens the blow because it's coming secondhand, and that recruiter still wants you to get a job. So they're giving all of the feedback from a really positive place. But actually, the occasions when I've not got the job and said, okay, then fine, can I have some feedback? That's my first question. Can I have some feedback? It's always happened that the job has then been offered to me afterwards, which is really odd. I don't know why. It's almost like they go, or maybe the person they offered it to didn't want it, and maybe I was like the second choice, and then they go, oh, do you want it? And by that time I found something else, and then my answer is no. But because it does move really quickly. So I think the first thing, if I'm getting a no, is I'm obviously saying that I'm disappointed, because you naturally are disappointed. You wanted that role because you interviewed for it. Unless you during that time when you were doing your due diligence and your digging and information gathering, you decided, actually, I'm not entirely sure. And when you got the no, you were quite relieved. But I think it's the question to ask is, can I get some feedback, and just so that you can sort of consolidate that and make changes for the next round.
I know. I totally agree. I try to always look at it not as rejection of me, which is maybe just my coping mechanism, but just that there is something else better for me out there.
100%.
Because you don't want to be in a marriage that one party doesn't want to be a part of, much like you don't want to be, in a working relationship another party doesn't want to be a part of. So to me, I view it like a relationship like that, and anything needs to be a two-way street. I'm one of those people that's like, grass is always greener, or just there's whatever's in the next door that I open is going to be better than this. So I'm kind of the
That's exactly
person that looks at things that way, and that probably just helps me cope. Conversely, when you get the call that you're not the one wanted, what if you do your follow-up research, and what if you don't? You mentioned this. If you are not interested anymore in the job, what do you think your obligation is to let the recruiter know that, or the company know that? Or do you just wait it out?
I have actually gone back to a recruiter and said, there are these things that I'm looking for. And usually, if you've got a good recruiter and you've discussed what you're looking for, they should not have put you for. If the role's totally not what you're after, and you went to the interview anyway, and you then go, actually, I don't want this role, why am I even here? Then that's totally different. But if the role looked like something that you were after, and then but the company doesn't seem like a good fit, then I think you're well within your rights to say to the recruiter, actually, there are a few things with this company that are not really aligned with me, and just say it for X, Y, and Z reason. So can you take me out of the recruitment process for these guys and just consider me for the other things? Usually you're going to get some pushback from your recruiter because they probably think that you're a strong candidate, and recruiters work on commission. So they're going to try and convince you to stay in that role. They're going to say that they can negotiate X, Y, and Z for you. We can talk to them about that and really try and encourage you to stay there. But if your intuition is telling you no, if you've done enough, thinking about it, and it's not going to work, hold firm to that. But I do think that you should save yourself some time, save the recruiter some time, save the company some time, and just say, actually, this, in hindsight, I'm looking for something a bit different, and so I'm not going to continue with the recruitment process. Would you say, or would you just go through?
No, I totally agree. And I think this goes back to one of our first talks on finding your dream job, is really doing your homework and knowing what you want to do, because it will not be your dream job if it doesn't tick at least most of the boxes. As we said, nothing is perfect, but it really should be ticking all of your boxes that you have checked up as important. And so if a job isn't going to do that, and you figure that out after the interview, I think you just owe it to yourself, not even really the company. You don't have an obligation, particularly the company, but you really owe it to yourself to say, no, I'm moving on, and don't waste any more time or energy waiting on that, because we want I want people to find their dream job, and that is only going to happen if they're particular as much as a company
100%.
may be particular.
Thanks so much for joining us, and we hope you stay tuned for our next episode in the Dream Job series, How to Follow Up with a Second Interview. It's time for the Fast Five. No planning, 5 questions, real answers.
Now, shall we fast five? Are you ready?
Let's fast five. Did you stay on
ready?
topic this time? Did you, or have you gone
No,
random?
I didn't stay on topic.
Okay, because
No,
I always
didn't.
feel like the random person, like just crazy Kieran just coming out with these random questions, and you've stayed on topic.
No, I think I'm totally off topic and I am ready whenever you're ready.
Go for it.
So, question number 1 for me, what is the thing that embarrasses you the most, or like your most embarrassing moment that you're willing to share with hundreds of thousands of people?
Oh, here's my most embarrassing moment that I can remember that I tell everybody. So my friends and I were at a party, and we were under 18, so our parents were picking us up, and each week a different set of parents would agree to pick us up. When it was my mother's turn, instead of, just sitting in the car waiting for us, my mother decided to walk into the party, and everybody turned around and was like, Kieran, there's your mum. And I laughed as if to say, you guys are so funny. And I turned around and she was there, like, what, bright red coat, waving at me. I was like, oh my God, what are you doing? I was like, oh, and I just turned around and she went, I'll go and wait in the car. And I felt like, and in my head, I said to myself, you should have been in the car.
The whole time.
The whole time. But you know what was really funny is that my mum has the same story about her mother. So it's almost inevitable that I'm going to do this to Poppy, and I don't care.
Care about it.
I don't care. And I'll make sure I'm wearing a bright red coat as well. So that is my earliest embarrassing moment.
When you are, stressed out or upset, what is the best way to comfort you? Like, what's the thing you like to do the most that calms you down or de-stresses you? What's that go-to thing?
It's laughing. So if you can make me laugh, then I'm in. If it's like an instant thing, let's do so. It would be going out for dinner with somebody that makes me laugh. Done.
Oh, nice.
Done.
No, and I feel like that's easy in London because you guys have all comedy shows on all the time. And when I was over there, I was cracking up all the time. It's great. You don't have comedy shows like that.
No?
You guys, not the way you guys have them constantly on regular TV there. You have the best. And I love a British sense of humor. I think it cracks me up.
Oh,
so
good.
Good for you.
Good.
Laughing is the best medicine for sure.
It is.
Question number 3, what's your most prized possession?
I am probably going to say something ridiculous like my phone.
That's
I couldn't cope. I actually couldn't cope. And there are times when so I have a personal phone and a work phone, and there are times when I misplace one of them, and then all I do is find my phone and play the noise and then find the other one. But yeah, it's my phone, hands down.
I get it, totally. If this kind of goes along those lines, a little bit of your most prized possession, but if money wasn't an object, what would you buy?
Oh my gosh, one thing?
Well, you just name the thing that kind of comes to mind. It could be anything.
I'd probably just buy
chalet in France.
No, I'd probably just buy a round the world ticket to go around the world. How does one commission a private jet? I don't know, but I'd buy.
Oh yeah,
I'd do that.
You're saying experiences though, right?
Yeah. I'm one for the experiences, not necessarily the stuff. So yeah, it would be going, and I would go. I think the first stop would probably be Thailand to see my friend Kim there, and then I'd go to Australia and see Keely, and then I'd probably whoever I'm picking up along the way. It would be that.
I love that. That's a great answer. I think this is question 5, and if not, we'll pretend like it is. Which celebrity? I know you don't know celebrity names, but I have my person. But which celebrity would you want to be your BFF, your best friend, and why?
My best friend.
So that's 2 questions.
Oh my gosh.
Like we always say in Texas, we say we're going to invite them to the barbecue. And I don't know if that translates, but that means we like you and we want to hang out with you.
Right. Invite them to the barbecue.
We want to invite you to the barbecue. So who's the celebrity you want to invite to the British barbecue, whatever that is?
Cardi B.
I love it.
She's so funny. She is so funny. Like, honestly, some of the stuff she says, she does on social media. I haven't ever seen a Cardi B music video. I just know her really from social media, and she is so funny. And it would probably be Cardi B or maybe Prince Harry. Closely followed by Prince Harry. Yeah.
Okay, is he funny also? Like, I don't know anything about
I
celebs,
feel like
funny?
Prince Harry is funny. I don't know him personally. we have a
if you're listening, we'd love to hear you on the show.
We'd love to have you on the show. I just feel like he's funny as well. So whoever is funny is going to be my bestie, my celebrity bestie. Are there any who would you have?
Oh, mine is definitely this. I've thought about this.
Yeah.
Drew Barrymore. Do you know her?
Yeah,
Drew Barrymore?
Yeah, definitely.
So it's the same reason. Like she to me just seems like a normal person, but she's hilarious and just thoughtful and just
she's
all the
silly
things
funny, isn't she?
Yeah, she is.
Yeah.
And, not afraid to make fun of herself. And just that's the kind of person we all want to, I think, or at least I want to hang around with all the time. And that's probably most of my friend profile. And so I think it's her and Cameron Diaz. I kind of just want to go dance with them one night. That's eat barbecue. So
eat barbecue.
If they
eat so funny.
If they eat barbecue. All right. I will let that count as your number one if you want. My fast five.
Yeah. Carrying on the celeb thing, who would play you in a movie of your life?
Oh, okay. There's if it's somebody who looks like me, the person I look like a lot, or people have said this to me. There's two is Laura Prepon, and she may not translate over there. She's in Orange is the New Black, and she's in That 70s Show. She was the redhead in That 70s Show.
Oh, I know the redhead. Yeah. In the show.
And
I just don't know anybody's names.
I was redheaded at the time. Yeah, I was redheaded when she was redheaded, and then I was blonde when she was blonde.
Are you a natural redhead?
No, I'm not a natural anything.
Is anybody a natural anything these days?
I've been dyeing my hair since I was 16 on the whim of my mother. Like She was the one that made me do it. Well, not made me do it. She was afraid to do it. And I was like, I'll do it. And so I started dyeing my hair when I was 16. So I haven't been my natural hair color, whatever the heck that is. It looks like a drowned rat is the natural color is what I think.
No,
so
I love that. So you've had lots of different color hair.
Yeah, I have. Oh, I'll show you pictures sometime. I've been lots. I've been kind of brown to almost black. I've been red. I've been blonde. I've been like a strawberry blonde. So yeah, I guess I'm stuck on blonde now. My husband likes blonde. So
it suits you.
Yeah. Well, thank you. I appreciate it. So Laura Prepon kind of looks like me, but the person who I think might be closer to my personality is Cameron Diaz. I think she's a little quirky and weird. I think I'm a little quirky and weird, and so and I mean that in the best way, Cameron, just so you know. I want you at my barbecue.
I love that. Are you ticklish? And
yes.
Where are you most ticklish?
Feet.
Like
when I get my feet done, like when I go to get a
pedicure.
I can hardly handle
you're
it.
Fidgeting around. You're that person.
all the time. Whenever that happens, very ticklish there. And my husband is too, and we both just are bizarre that way. But anyway,
I don't know whether or not this question says more about me than it does you. It really does.
I think I'm ready.
What's the last thing you accidentally stole?
Okay, I kind of stole it, I guess. I don't know. So my husband and I were in Las Vegas, and we were in a store, and it was like one of those, okay, I'm going to say a word and I'm going to ask if it translates. Tchotchke, does that translate? Does that mean?
No. Is that English?
Okay, so
what?
Yeah, we have one that doesn't translate. Okay, a tchotchke is like a store where you would go and buy souvenirs, like crappy souvenirs, really old, bad souvenirs.
Like a souvenir shop.
Okay. Also,
Do you see them? You see them. You see them around London, don't you? Like just selling like random stuff with the Union Jack on. Yeah,
that's right. Okay, so that's where we were in Tchotchke, and we were in. I'll try to spell that and send it to you.
Yeah, please.
But so we were there in Las Vegas on the Strip, and we may have had some drinks. I don't really remember, but that's typically what happens in Las Vegas.
Yeah.
But anyway, we were trying on like all the ridiculous things, and I left with a pair of sunglasses on my face that I didn't realize were on my face, and walked down the street. So that is what I
accidentally stole.
And I think they were $5.99 or something,
or free, like that. Or free.
And they were free. That's right, 5-finger discount.
Yeah.
I actually still have those glasses, and I might get them for you to look at.
Oh no, you definitely stolen merchandise. Yeah. Love that. My last question is, who or what makes you lose track of time?
Well, what makes me lose track of time? Social media, because you can do it forever.
Oh my gosh, you can't you? Just go down a rabbit hole.
In a good way, I will say my best friends and my husband make me lose track of time in the sense that like I could just talk to them for hours and I don't really know what time it is. So those are the who's that do that. And then the what is like the succubus of social media.
Honestly.
Is the thing that you can just do it forever. And ever and ever. And speaking of that, people should follow us, right? On all of our social media.
They should.
Not Wonder Woman Podcast, Not Wonder Woman _ on Twitter.
Yeah.
So we want to make sure we connect with everybody and join us in the never ending hole of social media, because we'll respond and we'd love to see you on there.
We would.
This episode is generously sponsored by Blonde Biscotti Coffee and Biscotti Bar in the heart of Houston, Texas. They are proud to serve third wave coffee and soft baked biscotti. BlondeBiscotti.com. Thank you again for listening to today's episode. Don't forget to click the subscribe button on iTunes so you never miss a show. And we want to hear from you, so please feel free to send us your questions and comments to notwonderwomanpodcast@gmail.com, or you can find us at our website, notwonderwoman.com.